me, why are you running for city council?
I decided to run for city council last year after I worked as a precinct election official in the November 2020 election. Um, Seeing how many people came out to vote, there was a line around the block from our polling location before the sun came up. Um, Working that whole day just really made me feel like I wanted to do something to get more involved. Um, Especially, the next day, like waiting for election results to come in and all that stuff. I was like, I feel like I have to do something to kind of put some skin in the game. And what I was thinking was that we really just need more people to run for office, especially younger people. I just turned 30 this year, and I thought if that's what I think, then I should do it. I should try and lead by example. And I've never worked on a campaign before. I've never really done anything in politics besides last year working as a precinct election official. And so I thought if I can come from, working in a pharmacy, not having any of those connections, any background in politics, if I can run a good campaign, then it'll be proof that that is possible, that you don't need to come from a certain background or, know certain people to do it. And I thought, let me just get out there and run a good campaign, and hopefully that'll inspire more people to get involved.
A lot of people are going to probably have trust issues after what happened in 2024. City council members were arrested for bribery and extortion. Do you see that being a problem for voters in this upcoming election?
I'd see it as being an issue that they're concerned about, especially for a lot of people who maybe don't really pay much attention to what goes on city council. And then all of a sudden we're making like national headlines with those four people being charged. So, for someone like me who, like I just got home from work, I'm wearing the scrubs, when I show up and say that I've never worked in politics before, that I don't know any of these people currently in there, I don't have these relationships. For me personally, I think that connects with people because, they know that my intentions are good, and that, I'm more like transparent and more ready to be on their side.
Mayor Wade Kapsakavich has touted the amount of roads the city has been able to repair so far this year and intends to repair for the remainder of the year. Do you see infrastructure being a big issue for you?
It's one of my core issues of my campaign, honestly, because, resurfacing the roads is nice, but of course, there's the issue of equity, whose roads are getting resurfaced, because we all voted to raise our taxes and everyone is paying for it. So is every zip code being serviced equally? Are the quote unquote bad neighborhoods getting their streets resurfaced too? So first off, we have to make sure that we're taking care of everyone. We're taking care of all of our neighborhoods. And then, it's one thing to resurface the streets, but while we're at it, we really need to redesign our streets. We need to rethink the way our city is kind of laid out and rethink the way that our streets are designed, because it's pretty antiquated in a lot of spots. Just so I live in the old West End, so they redid Woodruff last year or the year before, and that road is probably wide enough to be almost 4 lanes, and they repaved it and left it as 2 lanes, and they painted what's called sharrows, which is where you see the bike logo with the arrows on it, and it indicates that bikes may use the full lane. And it's just pretty silly to me, because you could have there's plenty of room to paint a bike lane. And bike lanes aren't even that great, but it's better than nothing. I ride my bike down that street all the time, and the sharrows thing, no one cares about that. I can just tell you that. And also, bikes may use the full lane anywhere, so it's silly to designate that in certain areas when they can do it basically anywhere. So just being more thoughtful about how we design the streets. And in 2010, we passed what's called a complete streets ordinance, which means that streets are designed for not just cars, but for anyone of any ability, basically for people with handicaps, or physical disabilities, for people, having audible crossing signals for people who are blind and things like that. And I would say that we have not lived up to the promise of that ordinance that we passed 11 years ago. So yeah, we need to resurface the streets, but we also need to modernize them and redesign them.
What do you see as a solution to this increase in crime? I know the mayoral candidates, they put out their proposals. So do you have any specific priorities on your list?
I think anyone is lying if they say they've got like one catch-all solution to solve crime, right? It's a huge deep-rooted issue that's facing people all across this country. It's not just Toledo. And, a 1-year spike is, what they call like a lagging indicator. Like the factors that have determined crime raising this year didn't just happen overnight. And so I think that it's not like a good soundbite answer or whatever, but like if we're gonna get crime down, we need to make this city a better place to live for everyone. We need to improve the material living and working conditions for everyone in the city. We need to make sure that we're paying attention to, the quote unquote bad neighborhoods, the forgotten zip codes, as much as we're paying attention to developments downtown and things like that. And so I think if you, improve all the schools, improve the neighborhoods and things like that, it's not going to stop the crime that's happening right now. But eventually, as we get on, we'll see crime. I think we'll see it level back off.
Small businesses, they're starting to recover from, months on end of shutdowns, really. So what do you see as the best way to help support these businesses as they're starting to reopen and starting to have their customer base come back in person?
Yeah, I think first off, especially now with things getting a little touchy with the Delta variant, really supplying these businesses with clear-cut guidelines on like best practices on what they should be doing, supporting them. I talked to someone who owns a bar who says that they wish that they could tell everyone they have to wear masks again, at least until cases go down. But they feel like they can't be the only place in town saying you have to wear a mask. That's going to turn people off. Although there are some people who maybe would like that and come to the place where they know people will be wearing masks, but still they don't feel like supported in that way. So as we navigate this with the pandemic seemingly ramping back up, giving them clear-cut help and guidelines is one thing we can do. The next thing is, I really would just like to see, especially this current administration, the current administration really loves that we're able to draw in businesses from out of town. These national places are coming in and opening chains and things like that. These big real estate developers are coming in and building, loft apartments and things like that. And I think that stuff's good, of course, but I would like to see them champion small businesses as much as they love to cut ribbon on stuff like that. And I'll say Wade was at Ernest Brew Works Wednesday, tapping their first keg and things like that. So I'm not saying that they're ignoring it, but let's really push. Let's really make sure people know, like, hey, we're trying to bring in these businesses, but also there's so many great places in town that are already going and are still trying to recover from the pandemic. Let's make sure we're supporting our local businesses because Toledo has, as good of, especially when it comes to bars and restaurants. I mean, it's as good here as it is anywhere else. I really believe that. So let's make sure that everyone knows, like, hey, we got to get out there and support these businesses. And finally, I would say some of that American Rescue Plan funding we should seek out because I know there are at least a few businesses who never quite qualified for the small business loans and things like that. They somehow or another, they fell through the cracks. My friend Zach, who owns the Ottawa Tavern, he just bought the Ottawa Tavern and opened it 2 days before Mike DeWine shut down the state. So they weren't even on the books to qualify for this aid because they had been a business for 48 hours or whatever. So making sure that we, make those people whole that haven't gotten help yet. That's another thing that I would like to do.
Daniel Ortiz, candidate for Toledo City Council. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Jaden.